Chapter 29, March 2003. It didn't stop. Alberto, the trash-talking solo, had the ear of Guy Castiglione, the Dago P who was under DEA surveillance. The evidence gathered against Castiglione led to a guilty plea on his own RICO charges. Alberto continued ranting that we weren't legit, that we didn't come to TJ often enough, that we were imposters, that Rudy Kramer was a piece of shit, and that we never brought Suzuki his Harley Evolution Sportster. Guy passed this to Bob, Joby, and Smitty at the 55 party, and they barked back that we were the real deal, that our club was abandoning us and the Solo Angels organization was worthless. Joby also caught all kinds of grief about the Solo support sticker he'd pasted to his bike, but he took it in stride and didn't back down. He told them to wait. As soon as they met us, they'd understand. I saw Bad Bob again toward the end of March in the middle of a 3-day meth bender. He looked like a wet paper bag that had been shot through with electric current. Barry Gibb was dead. Bob said all the Solo Angels drama had ruined the Hells Angels 55th anniversary party for him. He was fed up. He said, I should just go down to TJ and beat this Alberto fuck into the Pacific. He told me solemnly that we were through. As of April 21st, 2003, no Solo would be allowed in the state of Arizona. Not even to pass through, growled Bob. Then he said, Bird, you gotta quit fucking around and state your intentions, like I was marrying his dearest daughter, which in a sense I was. Oddly, the anger and confusion that Bob and Joby and the rest of them felt toward the Solo Angels and TJ never transferred to us. The worries revolving around our legitimacy put any lingering concerns about our cover story to bed for good. The Hells Angels had been given the perfect opportunity to question us, to take a good look and ask if we were what we claimed to be. They'd been told the truth about us and they dismissed it as jealous lies and slander. They felt that they'd done their due diligence. We knew at that point that they'd conducted at least 3 independent background checks on us, and they felt they knew us. As Bob said to me, I back you to the fullest, but I'm tired of this shit. But the fact that we were set did not put our anxiety at ease. If anything, March was the most anxious month on the case since August. It came down to continuing on an uncharted path or shutting the whole thing down before it had run its course. We made an unspoken decision to ride it out. We had too much invested to end it because the Hells Angels were forcing our hand. I wouldn't shut down because the opportunity to join the Angels was too important. Slats wouldn't stop because he refused to be swayed by the biker rumor mill. We continued with the game. Mac finished my sleeves. One morning in the middle of March, as Mac was putting the finishing touches on me, JJ called. She said she was with a guy at a local diner having breakfast. I told her to keep him there. I was on my way. I flipped shut and asked Mac, you want to make a few bucks? JJ's pinned down a guy I've been trying to collect. He put down his needle and gauze and said, hell yes. Mac took off his cut, knowing he couldn't wear it on a collection without club sanction. We left and Mac locked up the shop. As we climbed onto our bikes, I looked at my arms. They were dark with ink, red around the areas he'd been needling. They glistened with a thin coat of Vaseline. My arms looked great. They belonged to me more than they had before they were covered with ink. We went to the Grant Road Waffle House. We parked our bikes and stalked toward the entrance. Mac asked what he should do, how he should act. What if we had to beat on the guy? I told him to stay quiet, follow my lead, and simply support me. He said he could do that. JJ sat next to a 20-something white guy in a window booth. She wore a black tank top and jeans. The guy wore a white Rocawear tracksuit with green piping and amber tinted glasses. We walked up and stood over them, our arms crossed. I said, move over there, sweetie, indicating the other side of the booth. The guy just said, shit. I sat next to the guy. Matt sat next to JJ. Mac, I fucked the guy hard. JJ stared at the table, playing the part of the dumb girl in the wrong place at the right time. I pointed at the guy's food and asked, you eating that? Taking the fork out of his hand. He said, I was. Not anymore. I pushed the food around his plate and reached across the table, grabbed his coffee, and downed it in one gulp. You know who I am? I have a pretty good idea. Good. I just want to let you know today's your lucky day. They could have sent someone else. Someone who introduces himself by putting a pipe on the back of your knee. I stuck my chin at Mac. He nodded slowly. But you got me. Great. Don't show no lip. I took a mouthful of hash browns and mumbled, listen, don't talk, dig? Yeah, good. We're getting along great. Now, I need that fucking money. I told Mac that the guy owed Big Lou 21 large. The guy said he didn't have that kind of money on him. I said that I hoped he didn't. It wouldn't be smart to walk around with a wad like that. I asked if he had a checking account. He said he did. Then that means you have a checkbook. Yes. How much you got in that account? I reminded him not to lie. He said he thought he had about 17. I slid his plate over so it was in front of me and said that was a good start. We were getting places. I told him to start by writing out a check for 17, to sign it but leave the pay to line blank. He said okay and fumbled in his pocket. I told him not to move too quickly. He didn't. He pulled out his checkbook. The checks had whales on them, a conservationist. As he made it out, I asked what else he had. He said about 300 cash and a gun, a SIG 9mm. I said I'd take both. I asked him to keep his hands on the table and asked him where the gun was. He said in the back of his waistband. I asked him if he had a concealed carry permit. He said, no. I told him to take it easy. What did he think? I was a cop? He laughed nervously. I removed the pistol and slipped it into my jacket. I reminded him of the cash. He took it out of his wallet and handed over a small wad. I counted it quickly, $314. I put a 20 on the table for the food, nodded at Mac, and got up. He got up too. JJ and the guys stayed in the booth. I said, you guys too, come on. They got up. We went outside. The guy thought JJ was going to go with him, but as we walked through the parking lot, JJ looped her arms through one of mine. When the guy saw this, he stopped short. Mac and I climbed onto our bikes. JJ climbed on behind me and hugged tight. She said to the guy, see you later, sweet pea. We peeled out, leaving the guy to think it over. Back at the Black Rose, I gave Mac $200. I said, see, 10 minutes on $200. That's how easy it is to make money with me. He smiled, shook his head and said, thanks. No problem, thank you. I'll see you soon. Sounds good. JJ and I pulled out and headed to Phoenix. The collection victim had been ATF Special Agent Eric Otter Rutland. He played the part perfectly. JJ and I spent the night in Phoenix. It was an off night. Timmy and Pops were at their real homes. She asked if I wanted to go drinking. I'm sick of bars. Yeah, me too. Well, let's do something. We tried to think of the last place a Hell's Angel would show up, but our imaginations were dead. I didn't feel like going to a movie. JJ didn't want to go out for dinner. We needed to blow off some steam. I didn't feel like going to a movie. JJ didn't want to go out for dinner. We needed to blow off steam. Not go on a bullshit date, at the end of which nothing would happen. Finally, I asked if she played golf. Couple times, not really. Want to go hit balls? Sure, yes. We went to a driving range in Scottsdale. She lied. She had a great swing. We each hit around 100 balls, drank beers, and had a good time. Gwen called midway through the fun and wanted to know when I'd be home. I said tomorrow. She reminded me that we had a barbecue to go to. It was at the house of some old friends. I said I hadn't forgot and that I'd make it. JJ leaned on a 7-iron, drinking beer from a brown bottle. She looked right at me. That Gwen? Yeah. She alright? Doubt it. She's sick of me not being around. I teed up another ball. Why should I have to explain the broken state of my marriage to the woman I was pretending to sleep with? I owe JJ loyalty, guidance, friendship, and protection, not explanations. Off to Tucson tomorrow then. Yeah, I hit the ball with my driver. It hit the ground just shy of the 250-yard marker and rolled past it, stopping around 270. Cool, I'm gonna hang around here. Maybe see if Timmy wants to hit a movie or something. He'd probably do that. Timmy had also developed a mentor-like friendship with JJ, and I knew they did things on their own too. She put her beer on the floor, teed a ball, and smacked. With the 7-iron, JJ could drive the ball 120 to 130 yards. This one went straight down and rolled past 150. She laughed. Oh man, Jay, wait till Gwen gets a load of those arms. Our friends knew I was the police, but none of them knew what kind. Most thought I worked long hours as a city narc or on a homicide task force. I can't think of one who knew that I'd done deep cover work for over 15 years. This created some familial tension. Both Gwen and I would deflect questions about my job with half-truths and illusions. I was researching a drug ring. I was chasing down illegal firearms. I was backing up investigators looking at an interstate trafficking consortium. I was busy. No specifics. No talking about how I'd been shot. Nothing about the guys I investigated. Not to mention that I had guns pointed in my face dozens of times. The pride I took in these events was private, or at least limited to the company of my peers. This resistance wasn't such a big deal for me. I lived in a world of cops. I could stand around the water cooler and talk about my experiences till the cows came home. I had regular mental health checks from ATF shrinks and old friends and partners like Chris Bayless. I had outlets. Gwen bore more of this burden than I did. In a sense, she had to live an undercover life too. She couldn't let on that she was the wife of a UC for the simple reason that doing so could compromise me or my partners and associates. She'd learned a long time ago to keep the things she said about my job to a minimum. Our close friends got used to not hearing much about me. This was the way it had to be, and it was the way I liked it. Usually, it was easiest if I didn't have to put her in the position of having to lie. As the years passed, I'd grown accustomed to telling her less and less about my work. There were things she'd never know or need to know. I felt there was nothing to be gained from letting her in on the intricacies of my life. Of course, that wasn't true. While I hadn't lost her trust, I'd lost the closeness we once had. Telling her more about my work might not have made her feel better or ease her worries, but it might have prevented her from feeling so alienated. As for the tattoos, I'd spoken to Gwen for years about getting sleeved. A long time ago, she'd even drawn the flowers Mac had put on my upper arms. She liked what my tattoo said about me, that I wasn't the usual suburban husband. But while she understood that I wanted to get sleeved, she couldn't understand why I wanted to look like a gangster. I said it wouldn't look too badass if I got covered with Yosemite Sam's Tasmanian devils and bunny rabbits. I knew that wasn't what she meant, but it's the way I thought about it. I liked the prison ink look. I guess in regards to tattoos, I wasn't too different from the people I strove to take down. Gwen wasn't surprised when I showed up with my arms done, but she was a little disappointed. I guess you're just a biker now, huh? We were in our bedroom getting ready to go to the barbecue. I was tired but bullying. Are you kidding me? You know I don't like riding bikes. That's not funny. I think it is. She didn't say anything. She went into the bathroom. I sat on the bed, jonesing for a smoke. When she came out, she looked great. She pointed at my tattoos and asked, "What'd she think of them? I bet she loves them, huh?" She who? That woman you're working with, Jenna. I'm not even gonna... I know what's going on, Jay. Gee, nothing's going on. Even if I wanted to, and I don't, I wouldn't have the fucking energy. No, you wouldn't have the fucking energy, would you? I sighed and maybe rolled my eyes more than I should have. Gwen repeated, "No, you wouldn't," and walked back into the bathroom. This wasn't new. Gwen had been dropping hints for a few weeks. I hadn't dignified them with a response. Guys on the task force also started to point at JJ and me and rib me when she wasn't around. I told them the truth, that I was maxed out enough as it was. I'd say, "Dude, even if I could get it up, which I can't, probably thanks to my hydroxy cut problem, I wouldn't have the energy to put it to use." However, this was the first time Gwen had come out and said it. I tried to let it go. When she re-emerged from the bathroom, I said, "Look, if it makes you any happier, I'll wear a long sleeve shirt, okay?" "Whatever, Jay. Yeah, whatever." I went into the bathroom and took 4 hydroxy cuts out of a pair of jeans slung over the towel rack. I gulped them down with the Red Bull. The party was at the house not far from ours. The family who lived there had a son Jack's age and played on Jack's Little League team. The father owned a construction company and the wife was a pharmaceutical rep. They had another boy who was a couple of years older than Jack. Whenever we made it to church, we'd see them there. They were a good family. We got in the car. Gwen drove. We didn't speak. I wasn't in the mood to go to a non-biker party. I didn't want to talk about sports or mortgages or home extensions or kids or vacation plans, of which I had zero. I didn't want to calm down or chill out. I wanted to keep my pot boiling. As we drove through a gorgeous Tucson evening, the sky streaked with pinks, purples, blues, and greens. I got more and more tense. My knees twitched. I wanted a cigarette, but I knew I couldn't smoke around Gwen. I didn't have my release. A business casual cocktail party in the burbs did not compare to a Hells Angels clubhouse. My mind moved back to the place I'd been trying to force it to vacate. The case was all consuming. I thought of what I'd say to Slats, how I'd have to pitch him, thinking about how some of the task force agents had taken me aside to say they thought pursuing membership was a good idea. They made me angry when they did that. I'd say, hey, that's great, but I don't need you to tell me in private. I know it's a good idea. I need you to step up and tell Slats. Gwen interrupted my thoughts with a harmless question. They'll want to know what you think about the boys' team this season. What? What team? The baseball team. Oh, that. Alright. Just try, okay? Alright, I will. We arrived and walked in. I might as well have been at a cocktail party on the moon. Some guy handed me a drink and I drank it quickly. Tasted like a no-salt margarita, but I couldn't be sure. Gwen and I separated and I found beer. Before the case, I'd been a lousy drinker, but by then I was in tip-top shape. I could guzzle with the best of them, and even though I wanted to get fall down drunk, I knew I shouldn't. I took it slow. I horsed around with some of the kids. That was easy. They were playing around in the pool and they kept begging me to throw them in. It didn't take long before I did. I put my beer down and rolled up my sleeves a little and started chucking them into the deep end. They loved it. I did too. The woman throwing the party approached me holding 2 drinks, one full and one half empty. She held out the full one. She wore pink cotton pants cropped below the knees, a fuzzy light green sweater, and dangly turquoise earrings. Her smile screamed hostess. I took the drink she offered and downed half of it. She looked at my arms, and I self-consciously pulled the cuffs down on my wrist. I hadn't felt so exposed in months. She didn't say anything about the tattoos, but I could tell she wanted to. She asked how I was doing and whether I thought the boys would have a good team this year. She talked about how hard my job must have been lately since she hardly ever seen me. I didn't ask, but she said Gwen seemed to be holding up well. My end of that conversation was minimal. If I could have gotten away with grunts, I would have. She was neither cruel nor ignorant, but she pressed on. She was probably just curious. I must have looked like a circus attraction at that party. I was strung out and fresh tattoos peeked out from the edges of my clothing. I was also the only guest with a twisted 5-inch corkscrew goatee, that's for sure. All I could think was that I'd rather be hanging out with my guys. Not just Timmy, Pops, and JJ, but Smitty, Dennis, Bob, Joby, any one of them. I didn't like them more, but I didn't feel so weird around them. I wanted to say to this decent suburban mom, look lady, it's not like I don't give a fuck what you're saying, but I don't give a fuck what you're saying. I'll see you later. Instead, I stood there and watched her earrings and took my medicine. It was bitter.